Secondary Objectives: How to Never Be Rejected Again. Some of you undoubtedly purchased this book simply because the subtitle says, Eliminating Rejection. Follow my advice, and you will not be disappointed or feel rejected ever again. First, we need to put some things in perspective. If you have ever felt or feared rejection on a prospecting call, what exactly did it sound like? Oh, I know the answers. We're happy with what we're using. We don't need that. We're all set. Not interested. No thanks. No. What's interesting to ask about rejection is it something that happens to you or the way you react to it? Rejection, as it turns out, is always your reaction to the response that you receive. Smart calling tip. Eleanor Roosevelt said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." In sales, no one can reject you without your consent. Let's listen to two sales reps, both of whom just heard a no on a call. The first rep thinks, "Geez, another no. This rejection is getting to me. What's wrong with me? It's depressing. I think I'll go check what's in the vending machine." The second rep says, "Oh well, he wasn't a prospect today. I did ask him if we could keep the door open for the future, and he agreed to receive our email newsletter. Another small win. On to the next one." While they both got a similar no, one sales rep salvaged something from the call. At the end of the prospecting day, the first rep feels beaten because he feels like a victim. The other rep says, "Well, I accomplished my primary objective 3 times today, and the rest of the time I accomplished my secondary. Pretty good day." Unless you proactively look for and find wins, regardless of how small, you will be pulled down by prospecting. Therefore, for your smart calling mental health, you need to set a secondary objective for every call, which is what you can attempt at minimum on your calls. Notice that this does not have to be a do on their part. It can simply be an attempt that you make. In the event that you do not accomplish your primary objectives, possible secondary objectives could be, I want to leave them with a good feeling about my company. I want to ask who they're now buying their supplies from. I will ask if I could contact them again in the future. This doesn't need to be high-level stuff. It is for your attitude. Smart calling tip. Don't reject yourself. In episode 4 of the Art of Sales podcast, I addressed the topic of rejection. Smart caller Adam Hammer wrote to me with some wisdom. He said, "The way that I think about it is, if I don't call, I'm rejecting myself. What reward do I get for doing nothing?" A no itself is not rejection. Andrea Waltz and Richard Fitton wrote an entire book about it. Go for no, yes is the destination, no is how to get there. I interviewed Andrea on my podcast, theartofsales.com, episode 17, and she said, "You can achieve virtually anything you want if you're willing to hear no often enough." Secondary objectives can pay off in the future. An extra bonus with a secondary objective is that it can be a seed that you harvest later. For example, a travel agency sales rep cold called me using the old alternate choice close to try to set an appointment. He said, "So I'd like to come out there and tell you what we do. Would Thursday or Friday be better?" I replied that I wasn't a prospect for him. He surprised me by responding, "Oh?" It was brilliant because it got me talking. I proceeded to tell him I was happy with my present agency and that I had used his agency before. The new agency was able to do things that his agency couldn't because of their size. I even told him more, all as a result of that one word. He responded that he understood, but asked that if anything ever happened with my present agency, could he be the first in line to be considered? Fair enough, I told him. As he was taking down my information to send me his card, he slipped in another question. Kind of curious, what would have to happen that would be so severe that would cause you to even consider someone else? Now that was even more brilliant, and it got me thinking. I hadn't really established those criteria before. After some pondering, I said that I'd probably reconsider my patronage if they gave me a feeling of indifference since I was a small deal compared to their big accounts. But the major reason would be if they did something that cost me money and would not fix it. The rep ended by saying, I understand. Let me just leave you with two thoughts. You would be a big account for us. We specialize in your size of account. In fact, not only would you have your own personal agent, but also all of our agents are cross-trained on 2 other profiles, so you would always have someone here who knows you. And for the second point, well, it's our president's personal philosophy that doing business with us will never cost our clients money, so we will always make it right. Impressive, I thought. He sent me his card, and I filed it. But I didn't think much about him for a year or two. Then, several months later, I was running late getting to the airport for a flight that I had to be on. It was the last one out that day. As I was running through the gate area, I yelled to the still distant gate agent before she closed the door to the jetway, "Wait, I'm on that flight!" Out of breath, I handed her my ticket and thanked her for holding the door. My heart dropped when she looked at me and said, "I'm sorry, this ticket was for yesterday." I told her that was impossible. I even pulled out my yellow legal pad showing all of the flight dates, times, and numbers I'd given the agency. She was unimpressed, but I managed to convince her to let me on the flight at an additional cost of $600 for the last seat they had on the plane. The next day, I called my agent, ranting about how their mistake had cost me $600. I asked her what they were going to do for me. She calmed me down, checked my record, and commented that I had worked with a trainee because my regular agent was gone. "Well, there's your problem," I announced. "Actually, it's not our problem. You know it's your responsibility to check your tickets." She was right. But you know what? The next time I needed to buy a ticket, who do you think I called? I found the card of the guy who had called me a year earlier. I remembered what he had said about their agency, always having someone who would know me, and how doing business with them would never cost me money. They gained a new client because of what he had said at the end of a rejection call more than a year ago. You can have the same effect on potential clients that he did on me. You can plant seeds, many of which you might harvest later. And that also can be part of your secondary objective. Remind them of any future unfavorable circumstances they should look out for, which just might happen to include any problems you could resolve. For example, "Matt, even though there's not a fit today, if you find that your volume gets to the point where it would make sense to outsource your peak level jobs, keep in mind that we can turn those around quickly for you. If more of your customers ask for the type of unit we produce and you have to refer them elsewhere, please remember that we can help you help those customers and realize those profits that you would be missing." "Okay, Shelley, it doesn't look like I have a fit for what you need today. Here's something to keep in mind, though. When you do notice more of your direct mailings being returned because of bad addresses, we have a software program that could help you reduce that number and save the printing and postage expense. I'll send you my card. please keep it in the file you work from when you're planning mailings, okay? Notice the last sentence in the final example. It asks or tells prospective clients to place the information where they'll see it when they're most likely to need it. Do the same with your calls. Tell whomever you're speaking with to put it anywhere that they can easily access it when they need it. We've all had people we've written off call us and say, "Things have changed, let's talk." This is a way to make that happen more often. Your secondary objective has two major benefits. One, it ensures that you will never be rejected again because you will always have some type of a win. And two, it allows you to plant seeds that you might harvest later. Smart calling exercise. Write out your secondary objective for your prospect. Smart calling action steps. What else will you commit to do as a result of this chapter?